So, welcome to the last literary source video. This one is on Augustus's legacy and the later representations and some non-prescribed sources. So we're joined by the skeleton Pegasus Nerva today, who, as some of you might know, was the last emperor to be buried in mausoleum in 98 AD. So let's get this book. Well, that's the part of poetry. Let's get the legacy book rather and get stuck in. So as you can see, I literally wrote nothing for this one because for the Res Gestae and the life of Augustus Suetonius, you can literally use the whole thing. So Res Gestae, it will be everything literally from the beginning when he's 90 and he raises his own army, to starting both foreign and civil wars, to giving mercy to the people, to closing the gates of Janus, and obviously right at the end he says he's 76 years of age when it was written. That is Augustus's legacy. That's his obituary. It's written on the mausoleum, and that is his life in a really long bit of work. So obviously you've got the life of Augustus by Suetonius as well. So you've got, the omens of imminent power. You've got his vices, his reputation, his adulteries, accusations of homosexuality, him as the father of the country and his grandchildren, scandals and deaths, his respect for the law and customs as a culture hero, his public manner, his revisions of the laws, the Leges Iuliae, being a sole ruler, technically being dictator, but never calling himself that, his public works, his consulships, his imperial campaigning, claims against him for treachery, involvement in civil war, and his various names and all the battles that he fought, Mutina and Philippi, now Locus, and Actium, of course. So, but the thing about Suetonius is it's an unbiased recording of Augustus's legacy. Suetonius was obviously around in 121 AD. Augustus had been long dead, and therefore he didn't need to fear his wrath if he wrote something unsavory about him. So these sources, you can literally use all of it. So what we want to do here is grab this book, the non-prescribed sources. We can move on to that now. So we start with Tacitus Annals 1 to 15. He was biased against the Julio-Claudian dynasty. He describes Rome as a city-state under the government of kings. He mocks Augustus by calling him prince. Obviously, he called himself princeps. He implies that Augustus planned everything from the start, the killing of Hirtius and Pansa, and becoming an eventual dictator and bringing down the Republic. And he claims there was nepotism and favoritism in the Senate. So that's getting your friends and family and your close people into states of power by using your own power. And you've also got Seneca on clemency, 1.9 to 11. He was advisor to Emperor Nero. So he writes to flatter Nero. He's very biased towards him. Obviously, if he wrote anything unsavory about him, Nero would probably kill him, knowing Nero's reputation. So he says that Augustus was mild and well-tempered, but in his youth he'd been ruthless and violent. So Augustus had not always been perfect, whereas Nero clearly was perfect all the time. And you've got 4 things here that you should probably be familiar with, or just have in the back of your mind. In general, you've got Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare, I, Claudius by Robert Graves, Augustus by Alan Massey, and August by Neil Gaiman, who's actually really famous. He did Good Omens. If any of you have watched that, it's really worth a watch. So what we actually have here is 3 non-prescribed coins that we can look at. So the first is the Tiberius Aureus from 14 to 27 AD. It was very Augustan in style, with the laurel laurel wreath and the hairstyle. And on the reverse is Livia, who was the model Roman woman with the pax symbols, which is peace. And then we have the Nero coin, which was an aureus from 50 to 60 AD, so this went on for a decade. It was a direct copy of an Augustan coin. It was literally pretty much exactly the same, and because that was Nero modelling his reign on Augustus. But he wanted to be better than Augustus, which obviously was quite a feat because Augustus had already surpassed Julius Caesar. And then we have another Nero aureus, but this was 66 AD. It had Imperator Nero Caesar Augustus, Pontifex Maximus, Tribunicia Potestas, and Pater Patriae written on it. These were obviously all Augustus's titles. They seem very familiar. And it was a bare head of Nero with the Ara Pacis on the reverse, the front view. So the entrance to the Ara Pacis, which is obviously the altar of peace. And lastly, we have a sardonyx cameo of Augustus from 41 to 54 AD. Got a little white sandstone thing to represent it here. Augustus is depicted wearing Jupiter's aegis, which is a symbol of divine authority. It was a sort of cloak. Some people scholars debate about what it actually was. But in a sense, it meant divine authority. That's not really up for debate. It's highly romanticized for the Golden Era. Augustus didn't want to be depicted as a king or a dictator, but that is actually how he's being portrayed here. He was the king of the Romans. He is portrayed very much as a monarch in sort of a parallel to Jupiter, the king of the gods. So that is the last literary source video for Imperial Image. I hope you enjoyed these videos. They've certainly been very helpful for myself as I have to keep going over the sources, reading them correctly and all that. Quite a difficult job, but it's good revision for me, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. So I hope that has been a valuable source of information. I hope most of what I said was correct, because obviously I'm no scholar, I'm only a student. But yes, it is goodbye from me and Nava.